Okay, listen up. This is First 5, where I look for games that respect your time and you can enjoy over a week or two. I played a game for 5 hours, and I'm going to tell you if those were 5 hours well spent. Today, we're reclaiming the Ash in Golem Gates. Golem Gates is an interesting and unique experiment. One of those cool genre mashups you usually only ever see in the indie space. It functions like a top-down RTS, but almost every facet of the RTS formula has been modified with collectible card game elements. Instead of having buildings that produce units one at a time, you have your deck of cards that you bring into battle with you, with units that you draw and then spawn, one at a time. Most unit abilities are autocast buffs, but to make up for it, you get special cards that work like instants in Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone. Or, like those abilities some of your mage units would have otherwise had in another RTS. You're technically harvesting resources, but you're also working with a single resource mana system, complete with even a mana curve, and the way it functions is actually kind of clever. You have this single resource called energy, and every card you play uses some. Energy slowly regenerates over time, but you have a hard cap on how much energy you can have that also rises at a much slower rate. And then you go around capturing points on the map like in Company of Heroes or Dawn of War, and the more points you have, the faster your energy cap grows. Or in card terms, the faster your mana ramps up and you can start dropping your big cards. But the part that's best about Golem Gates' formula is something entirely new that the card game element adds: the shuffling mechanic. Like any other card game, your deck has a limited number of cards, and when you run out, you need to shuffle them before you can draw more. Shuffling refreshes your deck, but as soon as you start shuffling, you can't do anything for 15 seconds. No commands to your units, no spells, nothing. Your forces are on their own and at the mercy of your opponent. Shuffling is absolutely critical, because you need those cards to keep your war machine going, but you can't exactly go shuffling in the middle of a fight. The feeling of vulnerability when you shuffle and are forced to sit there is tense. And even if you're in a comfortable lead, you're just sweating and hoping some suicide bomber doesn't sprint out of the fog of war and kill everything while you're forced to watch. And it leads to similarly tense situations where you're down to your last 3 cards and want to shuffle, but you can't because your opponent is pressuring you, and so your opponent picks up a card advantage. There's a lot of really clever design in Golem Gates, but there are also 2 critical problems with it. 1, nobody's playing it. It's the eternal curse of multiplayer-centric indie games, but building a solid community is frickin' hard, and Golem Gates doesn't seem to have gotten a second wind from coming out of early access. It's incredibly unfortunate, because like almost any other RTS game, this game would shine most in online play. If you want to play against other people, you're going to have to drag them in yourself. Luckily, there are a ton of single-player modes to enjoy instead. Campaign is your standard affair, with every mission having its own unique objectives that you need to take care of to keep the game fresh. And the AI is surprisingly intelligent, hiding me into environmental hazards, falling back once a skirmish turns against them, and so on. Second is challenge mode, which puts you through a series of pre-made scenarios not unlike chess problems. It's one part teaching basic tactics, one part cool, wacky scenarios. It's interesting, but the little descriptions for each challenge always ended up more promising than their actual execution, if still fun. Survival mode was the weakest of the 3 single-player modes. It's basically an RTS Horde mode you can play with 1 or 2 players, but other games like Company of Heroes have done the same idea a lot better. RTS Horde modes shine when you have a lot to do with each individual unit, and Golem Gates has been a very micro-light game, which means it's just not all that fitted to the mode in my opinion. The second issue is the Forge, which has some extremely ill-considered design. If the name hasn't clued you in, it's Golem Gates' card crafting mechanic. Except unlike in any other CCG, instead of having access to the entirety of the game's collection, able to pick and choose what you want to make, you know, the whole point of having a crafting system in the first place instead of just card packs, you get a random selection of 5 cards you can craft every day. The entire catalog should be on offer so people can fine-tune the deck they want, and this is an inexplicable misstep. There's no monetization scheme present here to drag more money out of you, so I have no idea what was going through the devs' heads when they decided to do this. So it's time for a verdict. I just listed 2 huge issues with this game, but the fact that I can still wholeheartedly recommend Golem Gates despite these 2 caveats speaks to just how awesome a formula they've hit on. The more cards I unlock, the more fun I'm having with this game. And I've still got a ton of challenges to clean up and a few campaign missions left. So even without a multiplayer community, there is still enough to do to keep you going for a good 10 hours. It's kind of miraculous just how snugly these two genres fit together. For every traditional RTS element in play, Golem Gates has found an equally foundational card game analog to go with it. I'm loving this game, and my greatest fear is that it's set aside as a failed experiment due to sales numbers, because it's not. Golem Gates is a triumph of smart game design, something I have never played before, and it's an absolute shame that there doesn't seem to be a community around this game. I can only hope that one springs up overnight, or a sequel or a spiritual successor catches on, so I can play children's card games on an RTS. I need that now. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this episode of First 5. If you did, like, subscribe, or best of all, share this video around wherever you can. Golem Gates by Laser Guided Games is available on PC. See you all next week.